Hey everyone, welcome to chapter 4 on tissues. So tissues are when a bunch of cells work together to do a job. So we're going to look at different types of tissues and cells and how they work. And this is important because tissues make up organs and organ systems. And remember that structure and function tie together. And so if the structure of the tissue is damaged, like in bed sores, then the function will also be damaged. All right, so body cells are specialized, so we have different types of cells for different organs and tissues. And remember that all of our cells have the same DNA, but different genes are expressed to cause the different structures to be made. Tissues are when you have a bunch of cells that are similar in structure, so they're the same or about the same, and they all do a similar function, and then together they can make up an organ. Many different tissues make up an organ. Histology is the study of tissues, usually using microscopes. And there's 4 basic types: epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous tissue. Okay, so here are the different types of tissues. You can see nervous tissue is brain, spinal cord, and nerves. That's pretty obvious. Muscle tissue can be skeletal, which moves your bones, cardiac, which is just in your heart, and then smooth tissue or smooth muscle tissue, which is in organs, blood vessels, things like that. Epithelial, we might think of like our skin, and that is epithelial, but it's also all over inside our body. So it's the lining of your digestive tract, inside your organs, your glands. So it has a lot of different functions, and we'll spend most of the time looking at epithelial tissues because there's the most of like different types. The second most would be connective tissue. So that includes bones, tendons, fat, cartilage, padding, support. Also blood is considered a connective tissue. Okay, so when you are looking at tissue under the microscope, which sometimes they examine to see if something's wrong with the structure, thus the function, the tissue has to be fixed. And so they usually do that with a preservative. It has to be cut into thin slices because microscopes have to be able to have light pass through them to see the image, to see the specimen, or electrons if it's an electron microscope. And then sometimes they're stained, and that will allow you to see different structures. So light microscopes use dyes, electron microscopes use metal coatings. So here are some different views. I think the one on the left is a transmission electron microscope. The one on the right is scanning electron microscope. Anytime you see something that looks 3D, that would be a scanning electron microscope. And that's because the electrons bounce off the side, the different surfaces, and then the image is reflected back. Transmission electron microscopes are a lot like light microscopes, and they send the electrons through the specimen. There's only one microscope like this that I know of in Montana, and it's at Montana Tech. There's lots of scanning electron microscopes, but there's only one transmission electron, and it's actually a combo transmission and scanning, and it's at Montana Tech, and it's new. Okay, anyway, so epithelial tissue we talked about already. It's inside and outside of your body organs. It's in your glands. It has a lot of functions that you need to write down. So protection, absorption, filtration, secretion, excretion, and sensory reception. So it's probably the most diverse out of all the 4 tissue types. It has 5 characteristics that are important. It has polarity. It has specialized contacts that can sense things. It's supported by connective tissue, so there's going to be a basement layer that transitions into connective tissue. It's avascular, so it's not, it doesn't have blood vessels, but it is innervated, meaning it has nerves, and then it can regenerate really easily, the easiest out of all 4. So polarity, cells have polarity. There's a top surface and a bottom surface. So we'll see that, look for that as we look at different types of epithelial tissues. The apical surface is the top side. It's exposed to outside your body or in a cavity. And some of them have these little microvilli, which are like little fingers, and I think we've seen them before. So they absorb nutrients, or they have some other function. The basal surface is the bottom surface, and that's towards the body. And it has basal lamina, has special surface, and then it connects to connective tissue. So you can see the apical surface at the top and the basal surface at the bottom. So when you're looking at these images, look for that so you can practice understanding those terms. And this top part is epithelium, and then below it would be connective tissue. Okay, so specialized contacts, this is allowing them to stick together, to bind together, so they can form sheets and layers or stack together like little columns, like you just saw. Okay, and they have tight junctions and desmosomes, which we've seen before. They are connected to or supported by connective tissue. So under that basal layer, you're going to have reticular lamina and a basement membrane, and it gives it like structure and support. It gives that epithelial tissue structure. You might have heard of collagen. You hear about it in skin commercials when they're talking about lotion and why you have wrinkles. It does provide that support underneath your skin, and it helps your skin or whatever tissue we're talking about be stretchy and durable. Cancerous epithelial cells are not connected to the basement membrane, so sometimes you can feel that. Like if there's a tumor, you can feel that it's not connected underneath. So that's an example of structure and function. If structure doesn't work, function doesn't work. Okay, they're avascular, so there's no blood vessels. The connective tissue underneath them gives them nutrients, but they do have nerve fibers, so you can still feel. And then regeneration, they regenerate really, really quickly. They're the most damaged, kind of the most vulnerable, so that's why they can regenerate so quickly. Okay, so so there's two ways that we like name them to describe them, and that's how we distinguish and tell which type they are. So first you look at the layers. The layers can be simple epithelia or stratified. Simple is just a single layer, and then stratified is many layers, 2 or more. Okay, and then you describe them by their shape, the shape of the cell. So they can be squamous, cuboidal, or columnar. Sometimes you'll hear it squamous, so either way. I think that's easier to remember what they are. So squamous cells are flat. So I think of shingles on a roof. Cuboidal are cube-shaped, like little boxes, and then columnar are tall. So I think all of these words are really logical and easy to understand. So you're going to put 2 of them together, like they might be simple squamous or simple cuboidal or simple columnar or stratified. There's also some that don't really fit these terms, but these are the main ones. So here's simple squamous, simple because it's one layer and it's flat. And then these are stratified. And so you can see there are many layers, and at the top we have squamous, and then at the bottom we have more cuboidal. So here are the 3 shapes, squamous, cuboidal, and columnar. So they're pretty easy to remember, and some of them are hard to tell. Like you'll see some cells where you're not sure if it's cuboidal or columnar, so sometimes it's hard to tell. Okay, so simple epithelial. It's involved in absorption, secretion, or filtration, so you need to know the functions of each of these cells, and the functions make sense when you look at their structure because they're flat. Sparse cytoplasm, they're not very fluffy, they're really flat. So simple squamous epithelium is just going to be like a single layer. It's going to be really good for exchanging, filtering, secreting, letting things go from one side of those line of cells to the other side. So places like endothelium, that's the lining of lymphatic vessels, blood vessels and heart, and mesothelium, we've heard the serous membranes. So here's what they look like. You have that connective tissue underneath that's purple, and it looks like this under the microscope. So it's just really flat and thin. Let me see. These are alveolar air sacs. So this is in your lungs, and oxygen has to be able to diffuse from high to low, passive diffusion. And it goes right in between these cells, like the oxygen and the CO2, they exchange right in between the cells there. So that's why it's so thin. Okay, simple cuboidal is also a single layer, but they're cube-shaped. You will see these involved in secretion and absorption, and they form they form the ducts of glands and kidney tubules. So this is what they look like little bricks, but a single layer, maybe patio bricks. And then here's some pictures of them. So this would be the cuboidal cell right there. Let me get my laser on. So right there's the cuboidal cell. Okay. Then simple columnar are just single layer of the tall, like little columns. These often have microvilli, which are the little fingers, or cilia. They often also make mucus, and the ones that make mucus are called goblet cells. These are involved in absorption, like absorbing nutrients in your small intestine, and also making mucus for different functions. So digestive tract, gallbladder, glands, bronchi, uterine tubes. So here's what they look like little columns, like little soldiers lined up. And then some of them have these little microvilli that you can see. It's like a little carpet right here. So that's lining your small intestine, and it absorbs nutrients. And then this is a goblet cell, and it makes mucus, and that's the mucus. So some of them are goblet cells. Pseudostratified columnar. Pseudo-stratified means like it's not quite stratified. It's kind of two layers. It's kind of a single layer. It's kind of hard to tell. So pseudo means false. These are the ones that don't really fit in simpler stratified. So they call them pseudostratified. Many of them are ciliated, and these are columnar. And these are the ones, like I said, they're kind of hard to tell. So these are involved in secretion, mucus, little cilia like in your respiratory tract that makes you cough up phlegm. So those are those cells. This is what they look like. See, they're kind of funny. They kind of look like little ghosts. They're kind of wispy. And then they have the little carpet on top, right? The cilia. And then these are the goblet cells. So they're just kind of funny, flowy little structures. And then stratified is for sure 2 layers or more. You have, and the new cells start from the bottom and move their way up. You have stratified squamous. That's the most common. That's in your skin. So we can look at skin layers and see different layers, and some of them are stratified squamous, depending on where in your body you're looking. Come on, thing. I don't know what it's doing. There we go. Okay, so here's what they look like, just a bunch of layers of flat cells, and you can see some of them are slightly different shapes. And then down here in the purple, you're transitioning to connective tissue. Okay, then you have stratified cuboidal and stratified columnar. So stratified cuboidal is rare. Most of the time, if you see stratified, it's going to be either columnar or most likely squamous. So sweat and mammary glands, usually only 2 cells thick, and then you do have some columnar, like transition layers, male urethra, your pharynx, places like that. I don't know why my slides aren't working. And then transitional epithelium is where you need like really stretchy tissue, and this one also doesn't really fit the other categories. So transitional is going to look different, and it's found in your bladder, your uterus, urethra. It's stretchy, allows your bladder to expand. And that's what it looks like. It's just funny shaped. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Just looks disorganized and weird shaped. Okay, glands also are made of epithelial tissue. There are 2 types of glands. What glands are is they make stuff and then they secrete it. And they can either secrete it within the body, that's endocrine, or they can excrete it outside of the body, and that is exocrine. So those are the 2 types. You can have like unicellular, like goblet cells, those are technically a gland and they make mucus, or you can have multicellular, like what you think of with glands. Okay, so this is how, like showing a gland forming there, and you have like kind of that double layer of cells, and then it's going to make whatever substance and then get rid of it and go outside the body. And then endocrine glands form and they circulate stuff within the body. Okay, so endocrine are ductless. They make hormones, and it's actually exocytosis. It's actually really interesting, and they cause other cells to, like, they signal other cells to do things throughout the body. Thus, your endocrine system. And then exocrine glands are like mucus, sweat, oil, salivary. They release the stuff outside your body. And then the unicellular ones we talked about. So those are the single cell goblet cells that are in different parts of your body, and they make mucus. So here's a goblet cell. There's the nucleus there, and then its whole job. There's the ER, or the Golgi, and the ER is right here, the endoplasmic reticulum, and their whole job is just to make mucus for your body. And that's good, but when you get sick, it can get out of hand. Okay, and then you can have multicellular exocrine glands that are also excreting like stuff outside of your body. Okay, let's see. So simple or tubular, there's two types, like alveolar glands are tubular. You have compound glands that are simple. So here's a simple duct one, like your mammary glands. I think I said that. Yeah, your mammary glands are compound. There's many little sacs, and then they excrete stuff out of the body. And the way that you make milk, actually, some of these cells like slough off and actually form the milk, and that's what you're feeding your baby. Okay, other types of multicellular exocrine glands are merocrine, holocrine, and apocrine. These might be more what you're thinking of. So merocrine is sweat, when you're sweating, and that's also what your pancreas does. Holocrine is your sebaceous glands on your skin. And then you have apocrine, and these are kind of like, people disagree on what they are, but mammary cells are considered apocrine probably. So here's your merocrine, that's your sweat glands, right? And then your apocrine, or I'm sorry, your holocrine glands there. Okay, and that's it for the first part.